Because while I cannot guarantee what's going to happen tomorrow, that's way above my pay grade. What I can tell you is that more than 4,800 times, every single fiat money, government created fiat money, has gone to zero. And when you look at that Federal Reserve purchasing power chart, look down on that left-hand axis. And what do you see? You see a big fat zero.
Welcome to another episode of the Kinvestor Report, where I chat with industry experts, discuss the market, commodities, stocks, and the economy. As always, I'm your host, Arlen Hansen. This interview is not investment advice. I'm not a professional advisor or a geologist. However, I have been investing and kicking rocks for over 25 years, visited mine sites around the world, been investing in gold and silver for a couple decades. Any financial interest or kin I have in the companies mentioned will be disclosed. Be sure to do your own due diligence. Don't be an idiot and buy stocks just because people are talking about it on a podcast. Today, I'm really thrilled to welcome Lynette Zang to the show. Very, very well known in the gold and silver space, an economist, precious metals and currency analyst, founder of CEO of Zang International. She's got decades of experience in banking, brokerage, and market analysis, specializing in economic transitions, currency cycles, and strategies for preserving wealth through uncertainty, with a focus on gold, silver, energy, food, community, and real-world resilience. You may have noticed that a lot of these guests lately have been talking about this. So maybe I'm a big believer that we are starting to see cracks in the central banks that probably most likely will never be reversed. And we'll talk about that with Lynette. So, Lynette, thank you so much for joining the show. Really honored to have you on. I've been following for years and years and years. Yes, thank you. We're going to talk about like some of the global economic conditions, gold and silver, currency debasement, central bank policies, all these things that you're extremely well versed in. But like, where do you think we are right now in the current state of the global financial system today?
Well, honestly, I would say that we are definitely in the melt-up stage. I've been saying that for a little while, and I would also say that we're in the very early stages of a hyperinflationary depression. So I think the system is it's hard to tell with every day the market makes new highs regardless of what's going on and lots of this whipsawing back and forth. But there isn't one doubt in my mind that we are at the very end of this currency's life cycle. And you know, anything is possible. And here we are almost in June, but it would not surprise me to see some kind of major financial event before the end of this year. Everything is just too stretched, too euphoric. Everything's on one side of the boat. Hey, nothing could possibly go wrong. AI is going to save everything. Let's change these rules to give safe harbor to everything and the experimentation. Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah, put power in the hands of a few, right? And
Yes.
we'll see what happens to this world. So talk to me about melt up. You said we're at the beginning at the end of a melt up. Like, what do you mean by melt up?
Well, not at the end of one, but before you get a major market correction into a hyperinflationary event, there is typically a run up in the stock market and yes, we've been in a period where valuations don't matter, nothing really seems, the wars don't matter, the inflation doesn't matter, change your name and put AI in it, it doesn't matter, right? But whenever you get to that level with that level of complacency, and at the same time, this is like, I've been following the Fred. You've been watching me a long time. How long have you seen me use the Federal Reserve Education Department, the Fred?
A long
And
time.
that Exactly. And that
Yeah.
purchasing power chart, which is, if I had to pick one chart overall, that would be the one that I would pick to use over and over and over again because it tells the whole story in that chart. But last week, when I was pulling up the purchasing power, now this week it could be different. It's weird. I've never seen this before. But last week it was at 0.029 cents. 0.029. So we actually broke through the official 3 cents worth of purchasing power left on the dollar. No, I mean, that's crazy,
Yeah, it's great.
right?
Like that's nuts. Like, do they even make a coin that small? No, they don't.
No, they took the penny away because it costs
Totally.
3.9 cents to
To
make a
make it.
penny that doesn't even have any copper or anything of value in it. And
It's
and I'm kind of glad that you brought that up because that's what continuously happens. When they came out, this was, well, okay, these are new. But this 1 ounce coin was a $20 gold coin, right? Had a face value of $20 on it. Then you had, of course, they transferred this physical into this paper document, but hey, it's got a little gold mark here. You can walk into any bank with this and walk out with this. It's the same thing. And look, it still says $20 along with this Federal Reserve note. Can you tell me how much those two things look alike?
very, very similar.
Exactly. And it's true on the back as well, right?
Yeah.
And so for 20 years between 1914, and this, by the way, is corporate debt. If you doubt it, pull out a bill from your wallet from the US and it'll say Federal Reserve note. Well, the Federal Reserve, all central banks are private corporations, and a note is a debt instrument. And so they had this debt instrument running right alongside the gold certificate, right alongside the gold. For 20 years, they used all three things at the same stated purchasing power value. So what people think? Oh, these are all the same thing because
They're
I
all
can
worth the
use
same.
exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
we should always trust the government exactly anyways with whatever they tell us anyways, right?
Totally, totally. Well, think about it. You're using all these, then these two go away, but this one is still there. You think nothing has changed
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
in reality, everything had changed.
Everything has changed.
Everything.
Everything has changed.
Dime cards. This is we hand these out like candy. And if you didn't get one, we'll make sure you get three of them. You can give them out if you want. Hopefully that's what you do with them.
You won't be
That's
able to
what we
rip those
taught
from
you.
my greedy hands, I promise.
But on this side is a silver dime that was part of the US monetary system at one point, just like, thank you, there you go, just like the gold coins were part of the monetary system. But as they create this corporate debt, right, what happens is it gets too expensive. This costs way more than $20 to print. So, and it created restrictions around government. So, bye bye. Oops. Sorry about that. But bye bye, go away
Bye-bye.
and bye-bye. And the same thing with the silver. It became way too more than a dime to create a dime's worth of silver. So they got rid of that in 65. And these dime cards on this side is the real silver dime. On this side is the fake one. You saw the pictures. How much alike do they look?
They look a lot
Right?
alike. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I was just talking to Bill Holter about this on my last interview, and yeah, he kind of versed me on it's 1964 and before, and on the dime side and the quarter side, just the silver, the value of silver. And I loved it because, like, I believe that we're going to get to a point of microtransactions, and we'll be needing to use these commodities to make transactions happen. That's where I believe in the doom and gloom of it all. And I was like, I love that. It's like that's how you do these microtransactions because we're not going to shave a bar of gold, right, to get a
No,
loaf of bread, right?
nope,
So there has to
exactly.
be need some sort of way to survive this. That's my opinion. I think this is something that you're really good at and you kind of bring a lot of expertise to. Um, let's talk about that complacency here that you brought up early. The complacency from the people. Is that what you're talking about? The complacency
Yes.
of this US citizen or the North American citizen that says, yes, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with you telling me what to do. I'm okay with you telling me how to spend my money. I'm okay with you telling me to get more debt. Is that the complacency you're talking about?
The complacency that I'm talking about, because I think that level of complacency has really been in the system for a very long time. And we've been taught away from being independent and self-sufficient. But the complacency that I'm really referring to are the massive changes that happen in the markets, right? Like nothing bad can happen. This AI is going to help everybody, except that the younger generation doesn't believe that. So it's the complacency to just accept what is, well, it's the government. They can do anything they want. Well, if we allow it, that is accurate. I mean, it was absolutely unconstitutional when they legalized the Federal Reserve and then brought them out as a legal entity in 1913. Well, it was at the end of 1913, so 1914. Why did people go along with it? Right? Why did they do that? I never really understood until going through it now. Look at the massive changes that have happened since the great financial crisis in 2008. The loss and the continuous loss and chipping away of our freedoms and our independence, as well as the privacy thing that's been happening for a very long time. You know, the younger generations just are growing up with no privacy. Who needs privacy? Of course, that's what they always say. Well, why would you want to hide something? But then again, you have to trust that the counterparty that you're talking to actually has your best interest at heart. And I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen before we see something like that. I don't think our elected officials have the normal public's
No.
best interest at heart.
Absolutely. The only people that have our
Right.
best interest at heart is our own hearts, is our
Exactly.
own people. Like I like even family can sometimes not even have our own best interest at hearts, right? So like, so
True.
yeah, I agree with that. So you've talked about this, man, what did I call it? The doom money loop,
Oh, yeah.
the debt money doom loop. And I love
Yeah.
this clip of yours.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. I think that's incredibly like people need to, I think the people that can understand that are the people that have found themselves in that money debt loop or that do money debt
Right.
loop and end up going
Right.
bankrupt and go bankrupt because there's no other option but to go bankrupt when you're in this loop. So talk about
Right.
that.
Ultimately. And you know, whether you're a government, a corporation, or an individual, it all works the same. The laws of mathematics, the laws, they just work the same way. The difference is that the government has the printing press, and the government can legally create money out of thin air. But, you know, really, what happens when you start taking on debt? Your income better keep pace with that debt. But then, if it does not, in order to maintain that debt standard, you have to take on more debt. Well, as long as your income can rise enough to accommodate it, that's fine. But that's typically not really what happens. Your income does not keep pace with the level of debt. You've got interest on top of that debt. And now, because you're not even paying all of the interest, think about yourself. If you had a credit card and you weren't paying all the interest on that credit card, but you were making the minimum payments, so you were kind of sort of still in good standing. But that excess interest now goes into the principal, and you're paying interest on interest. That's where we are in the world at a government level, a corporate level, and an individual level. But we're in a different environment because we had 40 years of consistently lowering rates. In the 80s, they ratcheted it up to 21.5 intraday. And then every time we get into a crisis, it's always the same answer. You drop interest rates, typically 5.5 to 5.75%, and that inspires more borrowing and spending to increase the inflation because it really is so simple. There is only one way to fight inflation, and that's with deflation. And there's only one way to fight deflation, and that's with inflation. So what's a deflation? Stock markets going down are deflationary. Real estate prices going down are deflationary, right? Price implosion. They want you to think deflation is such a bad thing, but if you're making the same amount of money and things cost you less in the public, that's not a bad thing. But so they battle that by just doing this. And every time they do this, the value of everything that's out there goes down until ultimately this is my $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. I am a trillionaire in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, that's a nice trilly you got there.
Get $10 trillion, and this is a real official bill, but I can't buy anything with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So the
nothing. Not even a
complacency,
loaf of bread.
no, not even
Yeah,
one egg.
yeah, yeah.
And so the complacency that we're talking about is seeing these numbers go up even when, so that's at the top of the K. I mean, they're partying like it's 1999. But at the bottom of the K, they can't understand what's happening because we've all been taught that the stock market is supposed to be a reflection of what's happening in the real economy. But it hasn't been a reflection of that. It's a reflection of all of this money printing. And even those hyperscalers that never used to borrow money because they had such rich cash flow that they would just fund whatever research, whatever they wanted to do. Oh no, they're taking on mountains and mountains and mountains of debt.
hmm
So,
could a good analogy of this being like, okay, a CEO trying to saying they're creating shareholder value because their market cap continues to go up and up and up and up and up, but all they're doing is diluting the equity position by raising more and more money.
yes, you
Right?
could
So like, oh,
absolutely,
I started this company at 10 million. Now it's $1 billion market cap. Share prices at $1 the whole time, and all they did was dilute and dilute and dilute until people don't want to raise money for them anymore.
exactly. Tell that you hit it right on the head. Till that loss of confidence.
Till that loss of confidence, 100%, 100%. So when is this going to break? Like, at what point do people, I call it the matrix, maybe not like the right word, but like once you see this, it's so like you can't unsee it.
Unsee it, right?
So like,
And
but what's it going to take for people to see this? And what do people got to do? Like the government's not trying to protect us. They don't have our best interests. Big Pharma doesn't have our best interests. Church doesn't have our best interests. I'm not saying God, but church don't have our best interests. Very different
right,
thing in my opinion.
I agree.
And
I
I
agree.
think the school system doesn't have our best interests. So who like what do we do in this situation? How do we take care of ourselves from this inevitable implosion?
Well, what you do is you build community. And guess
Mm.
what? Community does not always have to agree, but everybody brings in the gifts and the talents and whatever assets that they have to support the group as a whole and create that surety in food, water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is primarily but not exclusively silver, wealth preservation, which again for me is primarily gold but not exclusively. Community has become arguably the single most important thing that I ever talk about because we have to come together. We have been intentionally divided so that we cannot have conversation and shelter. These are all of the things that we need to lead a reasonable standard of living. And yet we are being pushed, dare I say, if they have the ability to do so, forced to live a digital world almost exclusively. I mean, if they have their druthers, you just walk around with these headsets all the time, living in cyberspace, except we live in the real world. And what people really need to understand is things happen slowly until they happen fast. And
Oh,
right.
yes,
And
100%.
so that ginormous question of when, what I can tell you is I can't tell you it'll be Tuesday morning at 8:35. But what I can tell you is that we very recently had the lowest consumer confidence rating since they started tracking the data in 1952. Lower than then. That's
Wow.
not good. This is a
Well, in a world where we're so privileged and we're so connected and we've got so many privileges and our confidence is there. You know, and I think when we're being forced to live in this digital world like this, it's actually like increasing the state of our nervous system to the point where we
Mhm.
can't be present with family. It's difficult to be in community. We feel we need to do this on our own, and we're trying harder and harder to keep up with the Joneses.
And we
And like
can't.
and like look at the charts in 1971, anxiety rates increasing. Everything is just going like against our favor. Period, hard stop. Can we throw yoga in there as part of our community there, Lynette? I'm a big
Totally, you can put, well, you can, yeah, you can.
yoga.
I've tried yoga like a gazillion times, all different kinds of yoga. Somehow it's just a little too slow for me. It's probably why I need the lesson the most.
Well, then you got to take a class from me because I'm not going to make it slow.
Oh, okay. You know what? I would be open to do that.
Well, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen. Okay, so we talked about this doom cycle, which I think was an interesting point. The consumer confidence that was news to me too. I thought really
Oh,
interesting.
really?
Yeah,
No,
that's
this
because
is,
like I'm a
yeah.
huge believer that like when people lose faith in the banking system is truly when this is going to implode. Because there's going to be a point where people just say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm buying gold. I'm buying assets. You cannot deny the 25-year chart on gold. Like that's just there's 2-year charts, there's 1-year charts, there's 9-year charts. You can't deny the 25-year chart on gold. It's just like you're saying you cannot deny the purchasing power chart. Period. Hard stop.
Right.
This is a really important question. Where did you get that gun where you shoot all that inflationary money?
Well, I hate to tell you this, but I did get it on Amazon.
Okay. Well, I'm not, I do want one. Those are really
We'll
fun.
send you one. We'll send you one. Jessica's here. We're going to send you 3 dime cards too. So just make
Yeah.
sure you have your address so we
Yeah.
can get them to you. And if you want to offer them, but that's the goal. The goal is if we spread enough of these dime cards so that people start to understand what sound money is, then I do think to your earlier question, I I don't know that we've exactly hit that absolute tipping point yet, right? But with this loss of confidence and the rapid inflation again, what pushes people over the brink? When people have to borrow money in 4 easy payments to feed their family, they lose confidence,
Yeah,
right?
that's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a big problem.
It already is.
And
That's the
it's starting to
fast,
happen. Yeah.
right. I mean, that is the fastest growing sector in this debt loop. But I'd also like people to know that there are patterns. I mean, currencies have a life cycle just like humans have a life cycle. You are not going to look at my 11-year-old granddaughter and think that this year she might be 72. Nor are you going to look at me and think, oh, this year she might be 12, because we have learned to recognize what it looks like as people age. But currencies, fiat currencies, that's no different. You just need to understand the patterns that we're seeing. And so when you ask me how close, because nobody knows the exact moment, but when I see consumer confidence, look, what backs this? It's that debt, the full faith and credit of the government. I don't care where you are in the world. That's what backs the money that they print, the faith
Faith in
and
somebody
credit.
else.
So translate that, because nobody ever bothers to translate that. But don't you think we should? Because as
Yeah.
long as you trust them, you have faith, then you will continue to loan them money, extend them credit. So this is a con game that took us from sound money that is above all governments and central bankers' ability to inflate away. Why? Certainly not because I say so. But why is that? Well, because I counted, and this is not a definitive list, 33 different global users of physical gold, 36 physical users of physical silver on a global basis. So what that tells us all is out of every instrument there is on the planet, gold and silver have the most functionality and the broadest base of demand. How many places is this stuff used in? One. And I know you said we weren't going to go to cryptos, but I got to go there for a second.
No, we are actually. I do have a question about that. So yeah, you go.
Okay. This is my physical representation of a Bitcoin because, of course, it has no body.
Right.
They make it look like this. So you think this
It
is
is
digital gold, which it is
excellent,
not.
incredible marketing, incredible.
Oh, totally. All the cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, platinum, because it's psychological, to your point. They want you to think that this is as solid and good as those precious metals when it isn't, not even marginally.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The question I actually have about the Bitcoin there is, would it be a deflationary market if Bitcoin goes down to 10,000? Is that a deflationary market?
It would probably be deflationary. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. At these levels, when something goes down, it
hmm
eats up money. But I want you to keep in mind, because if you look at insider trading, this is one of the other things that you see is that the insiders are selling into the frenzy, right? So the insiders are out. Those, and in fact, when you're referring to Bitcoin, there was an article I pulled up. I haven't read it yet, but what's it, Mike Saylor? Bitcoin is dependent upon him continuing to buy Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
One place, one place, one place, 36 places, 33 places. This is the fight of our lives. What do you want to go in there with? A penknife? Because this is doomed to failure, just like every other fiat money has
Yeah.
ever done.
Yeah.
No,
We're not
no,
special.
no. Right.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
exceptions to this rule.
Yeah. That's what I think is just like, we can't, as a society, believe that we're better than any other society. We're more special than any other society because you're right. We've seen this time and time again. Every empire will rise and will fall at some point. And it's crazy to think that like America can't fall just because it's a great America or because a president's out there saying we're the best. It will happen. You
Yeah.
put the
Well,
power in
it
the
is
hands of a few.
happening.
It's happening.
I mean, the key for governments and central banks is they want distance. They want distance between whatever their policy happens to be and however it's presented to the public, because they do not want you and I to know that's their policy. They even talk about it. One of my favorite IMF pieces, the International Monetary Fund pieces, I suggest everybody go read this. It's an easy read, and it came out in 2015, and it was breaking below the lower zero bound. What's the lower zero bound? Have you ever heard of that before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, with this stuff, this happens to be a $20 bill. So it'll be a 20.00, right? And maybe they could take it out two more notches. You see that sometimes. But you go to the grocery store, you go anywhere, it's whatever the number is, 0.00. So that is zero bound. Because if you read their work, these are their words, not mine. This is a debt instrument that neither pays nor charges interest. So having paper bills out there creates restrictions on what they can do, just like when we were on the gold standard and the public had the right and the ability to, oops, I just dropped one. Oh, it's right there. Okay, anyway, to walk into the bank with this and walk out with this. So what did we do? We got used to thinking that they were the same thing. We got used to thinking this is the same thing. I just did an event in the Plutus event in North Carolina, and I had more people there come up to me and said that what really opened their eyes, there were two big things that they were like, oh my God. One was me showing the list of the 33 and the 36 users of physical gold and physical silver. But the other was look at the bill. Federal Reserve note. You and I are working for corporate debt. So we have to get rid of the bills. The government, the central banks need to get rid of the bills because in this environment, inflation is too obvious. Even though they change the formulas and they do all of these things to try and keep us stupid. But when inflation rises fast enough, the public notices. Once
Very
we go,
much.
once they get us in this, what they actually said, these are their words, not mine. Number one, negative rates are a choice. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to bust my butt. I'm going to deny myself some things so that I can save this money and loan it to you, a stranger or a government that I have no relationship with, agreeing at that time to receive back from you less than I loaned you to begin with. And no interest on top of that either.
Yeah. I've never raised money telling investors, hey, by the way, give me $100, and when we're done, you'll get 90 back. I've never had an investor say, sign me up, or bought deal on that one.
No, except that with inflation, that's what investors do of bonds. If they
Mhm.
hold on to them, the normal public, they buy them and they hold them. They don't trade them back and forth. And so in reality, inflation by design, never, ever, ever keeps up with inflation. Your income doesn't. I mean, now there's the one percenters. So no, I'm really referring to the general public. And even in this most current print, inflation print, would they say, don't hold me to this, obviously, I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that the average wage actually declined in terms of purchasing power. I think it was like another 1.5%.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like, period, hard stop. And like, I'm from Canada, Vancouver, and like our housing and our food prices have just gone through the ceiling over the last couple of years. It's insanity. I'm a very privileged person. I can afford going to save on foods, and I can afford my grocery bill, and I can afford my house. But man, I even choke when I see these numbers, right? And I'm lucky and I'm fortunate. Like, I can't imagine what some of these families are going through, these single moms or single dads are going through trying to feed their children. You say they're borrowing money for monthly installments to pay, like, yeah, this is going to piss off the
Weekly
world.
installments.
That weekly, this
Yeah,
is
no,
insane.
it's worse. It's worse. They break them up into weekly installments. So
And,
how many weeks can you
oh,
go borrowing that before you can't do that anymore?
it's tragic. It's like tragic. It's shark loaning. Like,
Yeah,
it's not even right.
yeah. And
Yeah.
look at the credit card bills, right? And look at the interest on the credit card in the 20 cents or something.
19.99%, 19.99%.
I bet it's higher than that for some people, the people that can least
Afford
afford it,
it are charged the most.
right? So that takes us all the way back to the very first conversation that we were talking about with the debt and the need for lower and lower interest on that debt so you could take on more, service the debt that you already have. And it was 2022 where they broke the central banks. I mean, that's what I'm talking about with a 40-year trend cycle in interest rates. And we were anchored at zero for 15 years.
So did we have 15 years of going the other way?
Well, it went the other way for 40 years.
Yeah, I could go the other way for 40 years. That's what they say about like the housing market. And like in Canada, it's been going in Vancouver, it's been going up for 30 years. And everyone's like, my last real estate agent's like, don't worry, it always goes up.
Right,
And I said, until it doesn't, buddy.
right.
There
And
will
well,
be a point where it doesn't.
and here's what you're talking about too, and it's a really interesting comparison, and you can do it for like anything. But if you look at that interest rates, the Federal Reserve Education Department, go ahead and pull up the Fed funds rate because that's the rate that the central banks control directly, and then overlay the rise in real estate prices. I mean, when I first got married, and we bought our first house, that I got married in 77. So I think this would have been 78 or 79. I paid $59,000 for an 1,800 square foot house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, little starter house, nice little house. Um, and my interest payment on that was 12.75%. 12.75%. Now, as they lowered the rates, Well, then you could afford, they could push up the real estate prices, the house prices, because you could buy the same level of house if it was lower interest, even as the price went up. So people need to understand that they broke that trend in 22. And just because we haven't had massive, explosive fireworks yet, that doesn't mean that nothing is happening. And that's where that complacency comes from, because it's the pace and the speed at which we lose that loss of purchasing power that determines whether or not we take actions. Because that's what price stability is for central banks. It's that you and I don't change our spending patterns, rather we take on debt to attempt to sustain a standard of living. So, that's where the complacency comes from. But coming up with what's happening in the oil fields, even if everything goes away today, well, look what happened with the producer price indexes, up 6%. That still has to work its way through. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think we have too much longer, because we are already at that vulnerable stage. We already have more and more people realizing that there is something that's not right. We have this younger generation that's in college right now, that's graduating, that are going, where are my jobs? You told me to go become a coder. You told me to go into, I did what you told me to do. And now, well, we don't need, I don't know if you saw Stan Chart's comment, the CEO of Stan Chart. And
No, I didn't.
I sometimes wonder that they don't think before they speak. Low value human capital. With AI, they can get rid of low value human capital. Yeah, look
Oh,
at you. Yeah,
it's disgusting.
yeah. It's
There's,
very disgusting.
well, there's no such thing as low value human capital. We're all humans. We're all
And,
equal. We're all
and
equal. And we need everybody in this world for this world to work.
totally.
That
And
makes me
I'm
so
getting
sad.
chills. It,
Yeah.
it, it is, but it may, I mean, the one good thing about what I can say is happening now is nobody's trying to hide the garbage.
Okay.
So you'd think that that could be the inspirational push that tips this. I know something's wrong. I know something's wrong. I don't know what to do about it. I don't quite understand what it is. And then all of a sudden, yep, now we got a
Yeah.
revolution.
Are you saying by that you mean that like the people just don't even care anymore? Like there's no accountability on anything and they can just do what they want. So like why bother even hiding this stuff? Is that what you mean by like the garbage?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the
Yeah, yeah,
government's just
the
like,
people
yeah,
that are in power.
I'm gonna go do
Well,
this and do that. Doesn't matter what people think anymore, whether it's right or wrong or against the law. It doesn't matter. I'm just doing it. There's no consequence, and but the sheep will follow.
that is exactly right. We're just low value human. I
I
mean,
it's just so
and you,
ridiculous. Like I keep
oh,
laughing at some of the ridiculousness of this conversation because it's so plain and obvious and like plain sight to me. And it's sad, right? Like
well, it's sad, but unfortunately, this is really the kind of thing that happens when you transition from one financial system into the next financial system. And really, what gold and silver is, it's that bridge that holds your purchasing power intact to get you from one system into the next system. And let me tell you, there are always, always, always opportunities in change as long as you are in the right place at the right time with the right asset. And that takes us back to those patterns. Because while I cannot guarantee what's going to happen tomorrow, that's way above my pay grade. What I can tell you is that more than 4,800 times, every single fiat money, government created fiat money, has gone to zero. And when you look at that Federal Reserve purchasing power chart, look down on that left hand axis. And what do you see? You see a big fat zero. That's how much the Federal Reserve is telling you that this stuff is really worth. Why? Because one place, and it costs virtually nothing to print this. Nothing.
Yeah. A little bit of ink and some paper.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
$100 bill, this $100 bill costs $9.4 to print. And actually, this is a little bit older. So it has the, I love that, the security feature running through it. Okay. But you know, the difference between that 9 cents and the $100, you and I have to work that much harder for. But
Yep.
it's the same thing as printing a $1 bill, except they don't put the things through it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they don't put the security codes through it. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. And I say that it's time for us to take our power back.
What does
100%.
that look like? How do we do that? How do we do that?
We've got to have a global movement. So while we've talked about local community, we got to have a global community. And I believe that all the global community has to do is for 3% of us, there's 8.4 billion people on this planet. If 3% of us convert our garbage fiat into sound money, we would have to have a voice at the table. And I mean, I'm learning things constantly. And where you hear my hesitancy is I am not by nature or desire a political being. I am an economic being. Right. And I don't think that there's anybody, whether you're Democrat or Republican or wherever you are in the world, those two parties, there's really too many similarities between them. But I I have come to realize and understand that we can create a grassroots groundswell. So we can do that. And that's what I've been working on. But we're also going to have to deal with the belly of the beast. You know, I'm an ex-banker, I'm an ex-stockbroker. I understand how to read the language. Now I've begun a journey. I sit on the board of Citizens for Sound Money, which is a global sound money movement. And we are really working hard on getting that sound money, redeemable gold. I don't like what you're doing, government or central bank. Give me my gold. I just walked in with a gold certificate. Give me my gold. Because that's how the public can take their power back. But we started this actually last week was the first one. Second Tuesday, I'm sorry, the second Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Sound Money Hour. And in that, we have Daniel Diaz, who is the main lobbyist, the key lobbyist for C4SM, Citizens for Sound Money, along with another politician last week. It was Kim. I think we've got somebody else coming on. So this next time. And I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get involved in politics. I have no clue. But like Kim said, and I think it's such an incredibly important quote, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is very interested in you. And at a local grassroots level, you actually have the ability to have conversation with those people and educate them. So here at Zang International, we do, we're all about education. And with Citizens for Sound Money, through the Sound Money Hour, you can call us and say, oh, I'm having problems getting through to this person. What do I do? Or here's an actual letter that you can write. Or you have to call your legislature and find out if this and this and this is on the docket. So I actually have real live people that are working hard to get sound money back in the system again that know how to get political so that we can go from the bottom up. Because let's look what happened with the cannabis laws. You had enough states adopt the cannabis laws, and then the federal government eased off on some of their regulations. can't do it from a federal level. It's too high.
That totally makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's on an individual level and then a local grassroots level. And that local is global.
Yeah.
I mean,
How
I,
did,
I know I have these dime cards going all over the world because I recently got back from New Zealand and Australia.
yeah.
And I mean, wherever I travel, I hand these out like
Where could I
every.
buy like a stack of those? Like if I wanted to go buy a stack of pre-1964 dimes or quarters, where do we go?
Oh, well, you go to Zang International because that's what a shock.
I didn't even mean this. I didn't even know. What a setup.
Is what we do. But also, if you want it with the card that explains it, and there's a QR code, so to help people understand it even more. And we have a bunch of under 5 minute little videos because you can get anybody to sit for 5 minutes. And all we're really trying to do is get people to look at things a little differently. So if you are a client of Zang International, you get the first one for free. And then the rest of them are at our cost because what we're trying to do here is build an army,
Just trying to
right?
spread love. Yep. Love it.
And you
Love
get
it.
enough people out there doing it,
Yeah.
guess what? We hit that tipping point.
The critical mass. Yeah.
That's it.
100%. And it's not a, it's, we don't need a lot to get critical mass in this. I don't,
3%. There was
3%.
3% that started the Revolutionary War.
That's 246 million people around the world, which is still not a lot of people with all things considered, right?
Nope. Go ahead and offer your viewers, if you wouldn't mind, because we really are trying to spread these around the world. And we'll send you extras for free that
Amazing.
get, so offer whoever,
Yeah,
whatever contest you want to run.
I'll do that for sure. Thank you so much, Lynette. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Thank
Yeah,
you so
take care.
much.
Wow, highly entertaining. I don't disagree with anything this lady says, and I think she's part of a movement. I think that's going to start gaining some serious traction. So you can find her at zangintl.com, zanginternational.com, or any of her social platforms, all listed in the description box below. And if you haven't, you can join Kinvestor Network by subscribing to our channel, follow us on social, or visit kinvestor.net to subscribe to our email list. And yeah, we're going to dive into how to get these dimes into play because this sounds like fun. And have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.